Lord Jazz, papi, hit me one time and make it funky.
I was brought up and taught to have no fear. I was brought up and taught to have no fear. I was brought up and taught to have no fear.
Full Circle Podcast number 11. I'm one of your co-hosts, David Roberts, along with the oral historian, Andre Taylor. Missing today is the OG, Dr. Neil Holmes, and hopefully he'll be back next week. Today, I have two special guests in the building, 2/3 of the legendary hip hop group, Lords of the Underground. I have with me DJ Lord Jazz and MC or Mr. Dupré Kelly. Gentlemen, welcome.
What up?
How y'all doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Hey, man, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to join us today. What I want to talk about, I want to get into a couple of things, but the main, I guess, crust of what I want to talk about is the current state of hip hop culture. And I don't want to do this like a lot of people in our age group do it. You know, they sit up and they rail against the current, state of hip hop and say it's not this and not that. But what I want to talk about more so is that hip hop is a culture that we created. I think we can all agree on that. It's an organic American culture that was created in the Bronx. And now that, I guess, people from our age group that, I guess we could call us that original hip hop generation, because, most of us are old enough to remember when there was no hip hop on the radio. And we remember that first Sugar Hill Gang record, and we've seen this culture grow. We've come to a state or come to a point where people in our generation are kind of turning away from hip hop, because we're not crazy about what's going on, what's being played on the radio, what's being done on television. So I want to talk about how we preserve this culture and don't just give it away like we did with blues and like we did with jazz, two American cultures that we created. But before I get into that, that's going to be the main crust of what we want to talk about. Let's talk about your careers in hip hop. And why don't you, for the uninitiated, why don't you just let us know how you all got started in this culture? Dude, why don't we start with you?
When I first was introduced to the culture of hip hop, it was through my uncle Daryl. He came home from the Army. I believe it was around 1979. We lived in Irvington, New Jersey. And, I'm 7, 8 years old. And my uncle came with, he needed some place to stay after the Army. So, of course, he stayed with his sister, who was my mother. She gave him the extra room in the house. And what I noticed is that he would lock his door. There would be a funny aroma coming out of his room, what I later learned to be marijuana. And he used to fight. And this is definitely telling you I'm old school. He used to fight praying mantis in a shoebox, and he used to play this. He had this theme music that he would play when he would be doing all of his antics in his room. And that music it wasn't what my mother was playing in the living room. She was Diana Ross and Evelyn Champagne King and James Brown and, Sam and Dave and all of that. And this beat that he kept playing over and over was called Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. And I gravitated to this door. I would sit outside his door. He wouldn't let me in, I guess because that funny aroma. But, I would gravitate to it. And when he would leave, he would tell me not to go into his room, and I learned how to pick the lock. And I would go in and I would play this 12-inch record by the Sugar Hill Gang called Rapper's Delight. And I was so interested in it that I started to search for more like it. And then as I started to delve into what it was, I found out that this wasn't even the tip of the iceberg, that it was so much the entire culture. And I wanted to know who were the people that they got it from. And then, excuse me, who were the people that they got it from? And I started to get more and more involved in it, and breakdancing aspect and the graffiti writing and all of the B-boys, B-girls. And it became a culture that became part of my everyday existence, man, until this day. That's how I got into it.
Now, Jazz, why don't we hear your story? I feel funny asking you for your story because I was there. I remember when you were the best DJ in our high school and the best DJ in the city. But
don't gas them up. Don't gas them up.
I got to. I have to. But
nah, give them 40 on 2.
But for the uninitiated, why don't you give us the story of your origins?
Okay. So as you know, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Man, I got. Let me see. Let me go all the way back.
All right.
Before even Cleveland, Ohio, I was living in Youngstown. We had moved from Cleveland to Youngstown. So this was when I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. And in Youngstown, we could still get the radio station WDMT, 108 FM. And, I used to listen to this station, the Ding Ding Your Music Machine, every Saturday, man. I would just tune in, man. My ears would be glued, to the radio. And I would just hear these DJs, man, playing, hip hop. And I was just fascinated with it, like, wow, like blew my mind. And so from them playing hip hop got me interested in the whole culture of, hip hop. So, when I first started, man, I was breakdancing, more like a pop locker. Me and my brother, we were doing talent shows in Youngstown and just dancing. And, so it was cool. After that, I got into the graffiti a little bit, but, I was trash at that. So I kind of didn't prolong that. And then last but not least, I got into DJing. And when I tell you, like, I knew this was my calling, man. We eventually moved from Youngstown back to we moved to Warrensville. And that's when I started to like really get into it, man. And as you know, I started a little DJ cruise, and we would play our mixes at the lunch in the cafeteria lunch.
Right.
And I was just so engulfed with hip hop, man, and DJing and music. I would leave high school and take the bus from Warrensville all the way downtown just to get records. Me and Mo, we would sometimes even skip school to go downtown and get records, man, before all the other DJs would have them. Because, back then you have to have everything first. And being from Cleveland, we didn't get things until a month or two later after New York.
Right.
So, formed groups. I was in a group with your brother, Mr. Smooth, Shot Kit, Pierre, the new wave rappers. We would do talent shows all around the city. And man, I just kept it going, man. I never stopped. And that's what when I talk to Sammy D and Chili C and all these guys, I'm like, I was just so engulfed in it, man, that I just kept going. And, they felt like they didn't see it. They didn't see nothing. They didn't see the future. They didn't think it was for them. Right. They didn't think it was for them. They couldn't get nothing out of it. So, but I just kept going, man, and went to college, and and we could talk about all of it, but that's how I got it.
And before we fast forward to when you and Du met on the campus of Shaw University, it's so interesting, like the parallels in your stories, just like, somebody in the NBA or the NFL, let's just say the NBA, they weren't just an excellent basketball player. A lot of times they were an excellent baseball player as well, or an excellent football player. And just like you two, Du being an MC, you being a DJ, I like how you both dabbled in other elements of the culture, because a lot of probably the young cats that are listening don't know that there are 5 elements of hip hop culture, the MCing, DJing, breakdancing, graffiti, and that knowledge that came later. So it's interesting to me that you both dabbled in other elements. But let's jump into when you two met at Shaw University and formed Lords of the Underground, and how you were able to launch your careers from that. Okay. Either of you can take that.
Well, I can go first on this one. I was a radio communication major at Shaw University. My first major was actually business, because I wanted to run my father's company you know, and come to find out, I was like, you know what? I'm more interested in the music and, you know, the DJing, the actually television also, journalism also. And so I changed my major. Can you see me?
I can now, yes.
Oh, my internet is tripping. So I was a radio communication major. And I had a radio show. I started with a gospel show. I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go and open up the radio station playing gospel. And, you know, which was cool. You know, I paid my dues, man. And after the gospel, I did jazz. I had a jazz show where I would play jazz. You know, I remember playing Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. That song was like 19 minutes long. So, you know, when you played that song, you can get up and go to the bathroom and run across campus and come back. But so, you know, so I worked my way up to jazz. And so I had to talk to my program director. I was like, you know, I love jazz, I love gospel, but my passion and thing, what I really wanted to do was play, you know, hip hop, reggae, soul, house, you know, today's vibes, which was 1989. So, you know, he granted me with my own show, which was unheard of back then. Nobody had a hip hop show on this station because it was a jazz format. So I get the show. I'm rocking every Saturday. You know, a lot of people listening in from the Triangle area. I used to have different MCs come up and rock. Like I had my man Joe Bananas come up, DoitAll used to come up. You know, some other people used to come up, and I would also do all the parties around the area, especially at Shaw, St. Aug, NC State. And, you know, dude would be at the parties and, you know, he was an MC. So, you know, he would just start rapping. I would let him rap and I would cut it up and we had a crowd going crazy. And so we you know, we dabbled around doing parties and stuff like that. And one of my good friends, Derek L.A. Jackson, he told me when he graduated, he would, you know, hook me up, you know, some kind of way. And I was like, all right, whatever. So when I went back to Cleveland, Ohio, I got a call in the summer. He's like, yo, Jazz, I'm with Marley, my cousin. I'm at the House of Hits. He was like, when you get back to Shaw, form a group and send me a demo, a tape or something. So I was like, all right, we'll do. So that's when I hooked up with Du. And then we hooked up with Mr. Funky. And, you know, we formed a group. I sent Derek the tape, and Marley loved the Psycho song, man. And we set up a show for them to come down to Raleigh. You know, we ripped the show, tore it down, and Marley's like, man, y'all need to come to the House of Hits. Marley was down there with us to see the reaction from the crowd and how much energy we had. And, you know, it was just, it was a dope moment in hip hop for us, man, just to have Marley Marl down there. And you know how we feel about Marley Marl in Cleveland.
Exactly.
So, man, it was just, man, I was just so proud, man. I was proud of DoitAll. I was proud of Mr. Funky just for, you know, stepping up to the bat and knocking it out the park. And, you know, after that, man, we went up to the house and made magic.
We were proud of him too, man, even for including us in that. You know what I mean? That's why I always call Lord Jazz the founder of Lords of the Underground, because without his relationship with Derek Jackson, you know, LA could have went anywhere to probably get an artist that would have rhymed for Marley Marl at that time. You know what I mean? So
right
Lord Jazz is, I mean, we're all founding members, but he is the definitely the precursor and the founding member of Lords of the Underground for having the ability to put us together, man. So we definitely salute him forever for that.
No doubt. Now, when you guys were out, you know, first came out, you know, my co-host Dre was a young high school student, you know, and you know, as much as, you know, we all love hip hop, we know that the high school students, they're the ones that I think that are the market that really drives it. And Dre, we've had this discussion. How did the Lords impact you when they first came out?
Me, it was like being from Philly, it was like, oh, Will Smith. I'm like, oh, that's cute. And for me, it wasn't anything special because his mom was one of my 7th grade teachers. So it was like, okay, that's her son. So it really didn't mean anything to me. But I'll never forget, I was walking out one morning and it was on BET for some odd reason. And here come the video for Here Come the Lords came up. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm gonna be late for school for this one. What is this? And it's just like, it was the first time that I was introduced to hip hop on a college campus. You know, then you see, you know, an Alpha Phi Alpha shirt and you see Shaw, and it's just like, what is all this? So you start putting it together and it's just like, yo, I can aspire to be this on a campus, and if this is what a Black college campus looks like, this is hot, this is where I want to be. Yeah. Philly dictates to you, this is what you can be up to this point. But seeing that video was like, okay, so this stuff here they talking about is nothing. I can excel to be this. So it was one of those impactful moments for me. And what I see in hip hop now, that's the missing message. Like for me at 12, 13 years old, it was like, I can aspire. Music today is like, this is it. You're gonna be in a trap, you're gonna be in prison, you're gonna be dead. Those are your three options. Yeah. So my question for y'all is like, how did you guys, was that purposeful that you did that, or was it just throwing shout outs to your fraternity, the greatest fraternity in America, in the world by far, or one of those situations where it just happened? And how do we put that back into hip hop to send a message that, hey, you can be more than just this person that's buying my album?
Well, I mean, for me, man, hip hop has always been a culture where you expressed it through its elements, right? And you know, Dave just talked about the elements of hip hop. So, you know, you got your DJ, you know, he's gonna play the sounds of what the culture is vibing to, listening to, hearing, whatever that is. He's gonna create these sounds or play these sounds that represent the soundtrack to our culture. Mm-hmm. Then you have the B-boys and the B-girls, right? And the B-boys and the B-girls usually are the dancers, you know, and the dancers are usually fly because they're also into the fashion. So the B-boys and the B-girls usually represent the dancing and the fashion aspect. They show you how to move to the sounds of the culture and look fly while doing it. Then you have the MC. The MC, I've always learned, was taught to narrate how we or our counterparts, our peers, people around us were living the culture in our demographic. So the way that the people lived it in Philly was maybe a little different than the way we lived it in New Jersey or Ohio, but it was still the same culture. You know, it was still representing the same culture, maybe a little different twist in Philly, maybe a little different bop in Cleveland, but it was still the same culture. And the MCs narrated how to live that culture. So when you see Lords of the Underground at school, when you see them in their fraternity paraphernalia, when you see them saying certain things, it's because all we're doing is narrating how we are living the culture and our peers are living the culture at that given time, at that moment. So when you see Alpha Phi Alpha represented and you see the Greek fraternities represented and you see HBCU, Black College, with what now is like a big thing because of the racial disparity that's been going on in our country for years. But when you see all of those things, this is hip hop. It's the way Lords of the Underground is living hip hop at the current moment, with the music backed by Marley Marl, with the narration provided by Mr. Funky Man and Do It All, with the soundtrack and the cuts provided by DJ Lord Jazz. You know, that is the sound and the visual of hip hop. It wasn't intentional, like in a sense of, I'm gonna make you think that we are this and we are not. No, everything that you see that we did visually, we wanted to represent who we were in our current state, mental state in hip hop. So that's what you got. We didn't know that it would make young Black men and young Black women want to go to college, and specifically at HBCU, which is now the ongoing thing. So we are one of the precursors of in entertainment, because I'm not saying that we're one of the people who made people want to go to HBCUs. There's so many people before us that has done that. But we are one of in the 90s, we are one of the driving forces that made young Black men and women want to go to college, and specifically at HBCU through hip hop, which shows you the power of our culture.
And you know, I just want to attest to something that you said when you said that we didn't want to come out saying we're this and we're that and we're really not. You know, being someone that had known both of you for years and have, you know, been at shows with you all, hung out with you backstage and other places. We can't tell too many stories. I don't want to tell, but I can attest, right? But I can attest to the fact that there is no A&R fake image with you guys. Like
No.
what you present is who you are. Like if anyone were to ask me, what is Do like? What is Jazz like? I was like, their music, what you see is what you get, like Flip Wilson used to say, you know.
Exactly.
And to me, you know, I thought that was great. Nothing against, you know, other MCs who may want to present a specific image, you know, that's fine. If that's their business model, fine. But I always like the fact that for you all, your music was exactly who you were.
Yeah. I mean, we stayed organic, man. It's like, for me, you know, everybody has a talent and can succeed, especially in America. But do you have the guts to fail? And Lords of the Underground, we had the guts. Like, you know, we gave it all we had, you know. And I mean, like what Dude said, like there was nothing gimmicky about us. Exactly. You know, like you said, what you see is what you get. Like that's us. And the reason why we did Here Come the Lords / DJ Lord Jazz Hit Me One Time, Make It Funky, I really wanted to incorporate that song with the Here Come the Lord, because in the early 90s, a lot of the DJs were kind of, you know, always just put in the bag, never said nothing, never, you know. So I was like, man, this thing started with DJs. So it's time for the DJs to, you know, come a little bit more to the forefront. So that's why I wanted to do Lord Jazz Hit Me One Time. And it was dope how we did it, because we incorporated 2 videos into one. And we did it at the college where we went. And a lot of students went to Shaw because we went there, you know. Right. And like your co-host said, you know, a lot of the crowd that was listening to us, the hip hop back then, you know, there was a lot of positivity. There was a lot of messages in the music. You know, we had shows like, what was the show with Dwayne Wayne and what was the name of that show?
A Different World.
A Different World.
Exactly.
You know, shows like that, man, just uplifting, make you, you know, believe that you can, you know, you can go to college, you can be in the fraternity, you can graduate, you know, you can be something, you can be a doctor, you can be, you know, that like really like uplifting.
And still be hip hop.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you know, when you say that, it's interesting. I wish that my OG, Dr. Neil Holmes, was here today. This has been a perfect show for him to be a part of.
Salute to the doctor.
You know, because
he
when I got to the University of Akron campus, you know, I was watching Different World and I was listening to KRS-One and Public Enemy. Yeah. And it was their music that made me more of a fertile ground, so to speak, to receive what he was teaching us, you know. And then on top of what we were bringing, he's the one that taught me about the Last Poets and Gil Scott Heron, you know, so it all came together. Now,
wow, yo, D, when you say Gil Scott Heron and the Last Poets, our manager, Hafiz Fareed, who was my personal manager before he became the group's manager. When I went to Shaw University, he sent me with 3 albums. He sent me with Gil Scott Heron, he sent me with Last Poet, and he sent me with Thelonious Monk.
Wow.
Those are the albums that he sent me to Shaw with, and you just named 2 of them. So, and we on the same vibe, man.
And you know what else? Let me add to that. Gil Scott Heron is what we sampled for Lord Jazz Hit Me One Time.
Right.
Now, that's news to me. I didn't know that. You know?
Right.
And let's jump on that, because we mentioned Gil Scott Heron in 1993, after his, I guess you could say his commercial peak was over. He had done those 6 albums that cemented his legacy. He did an album and he had a song on there called Message to the Messengers, where he was kind of imploring hip hop artists at that time to, you know, preserve the culture and come out with some, you know, more positive message, more similar to what you guys were doing, you know, different from what some other, I guess, quote unquote, gangster rappers were doing.
Yeah.
So, and Dre asked a question earlier about, you know, how do we get back to that? So we could jump into that now. We know previously, you know, we created the blues. We kind of got away from that and gave that away. We created jazz, kind of got away from that and gave that away. And, you know, many jazz artists and blues artists have to go to Europe now to survive. You know, our own people don't really support them commercially. You know, you saw the movie, what was it, Cadillac?
Records.
You know, what was it?
Cadillac Records. Shout out to New Jersey.
When Muddy Waters thought he was finished, remember at the end, and then he went to Europe and they rolling out the red carpet. He's looking behind him like, who is this for? And it was for him, you know. Right. And Jazz and Du, you both have talked to me about how you can still get a lot of love over in Europe, you know, and that's great. But how do we preserve that culture here for our people not to turn away from it? I mean, I'm talking especially people in our age group who are kind of turned off by what they're hearing now. How do we preserve that, not give it away?
Well, I mean, in order to preserve anything, you have to be self-efficient. And in order to be self-efficient, you have to become the owner of the thing, you know? So, but in order to become the owner of something, you have to do research. You have to get information. Information changes situations. So if you understand what it is, what it takes to be an owner, if you understand what it takes for them to put your records out and to promote them, to marketing, we have to delve into what it takes to become more than just the artist. Now, when I say become more than just the artist, that you have to be everything that's associated with the sale of whatever that product is, you know? So the way that we're not gonna give it away is we have to start creating Black distribution companies. We have to start being more. We have to start being more. What is going on? Somebody keep hitting me. I'm sorry, man. Hold up.
That's all right.
I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies. We have to start being more involved. You know what I mean? Like we have to start taking, instead of always looking for somebody to do something for us, let's learn the way of how they do it. So we don't have to need a dependency on them. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So when you're dependent on something, it's easy to give something away because you feel like as long as I can receive this part or I can do this part, then they can control it. But we don't want to give away control, because when you give away control, then they get to make the decisions for you or for that thing. So my thing is, let's stop being dependent on others for a culture that we created. We have to start empowering, understanding, researching, developing, and becoming our own, meaning we need to own our things. And that's easy to say, but we have been so disenfranchised by certain things that go on in the industry, we get lazy, you know? So we rather say, let them distribute that, let them market that, let them promote that, let them, and then by the end of the day, they have all of our intellectual property and can negotiate billion-dollar deals on something that we created, and we have no say-so, and because our ownership is minuscule. You know what I mean? So we have to become the owners, man. We really do. And in order to become the owners, we have to do the research of the information, because information changes situations. So we have to get more of that information, man, so we can be the owners.
Yeah, facts on facts. Yeah, that's true. We really do have to become owners. But you know what? I think like this younger generation, they do own. They do own.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, for me, there's not a balance of music being put out there in the mainstream.
Right.
That's the problem I have, because I mean, I think this younger generation, man, they're making millions and millions, and they're owning their stuff. Not all of them, but some of them are owning their stuff. It's just the music that they're putting out is only one certain kind of music, you know, and most of it is negative.
Right.
Most of it, I'm sad that they're even playing this on the radio. It's like it's got to that point for me. And you know, I have 2 kids, man, and just to hear what they're playing, it's like they are really playing that, you know.
Right.
It's like mind-boggling to me. But you know, a lot of these young rappers and entertainers, man, they do own this stuff. It's just the powers to be, or the people who are in control, are just letting this one style of music hit the radio. They pushing that agenda, you know. They're pushing, you know, just all negativity. Most of it is all negativity.
Right.
You have J. Cole and a couple other, you know, positive rappers that are saying some things, but the majority of it is the violence, the sex, and as we all know, that stuff sells. So that's why, you know, a lot of people are selling out, just doing it just to try to make some money, which is understandable. When you don't have nothing and you know, you want to get something real quick, you do that. But there's no passion in the, you know, there's no passion. There's no passion from this younger generation.
So what I was saying too, though, is like Lord Jazz is right that there's more ownership than it was, you know, back in the day. And what I mean by more ownership, there are artists who now own their masters, right? There are artists who own their brand, right? But that's a false sense of power. Because if I give you a little bit of this, you'll be quiet because you're making money for your family. The true ownership lies in distribution. The true ownership lies in marketing, promotion. The true ownership lies in the platforms that gives our culture to the world. If we do not own the platforms, not specifically the art, we started out with the art, then we got a little wiser, and now we started controlling the art. But like Lord Jazz said, the powers that be, the people that control, we have to be those people. Not just owning our masters. We fought to start owning our masters. Great. We fought to start owning some of our brands. Great. But you still have to go to the WIA system. You still have to go to the Atlantic system. You still have to go. We don't own distribution companies, and if there are people out there who own them, we don't know them. Where are they? I mean, don't get me wrong. You might have Rock Nation, but Rock Nation still has partnership deals. And that's just it. It's we have to partner with other people who are not of the culture, just so people can hear and support our culture. When we get that part of it and start realizing it's not just about owning your masters. It's not just about owning your song. It's not just about owning your logo and your brand. Yes, that's a part of it, but it's not in the totality. When we start owning the platforms, radio stations, record companies, and I'm not talking about having a label or imprint deal with the company. I'm talking about owning the label. Then you can make a difference when of how the people receive it. And we have the power to do it. If Drake right now says, I don't want to deal with anybody, I'm just going direct to consumer, he will make such a mark and a difference in how he does it, you know, how he sets a precedent for the culture. And it takes the people who gain the power to realize that, but they gain the power through partnerships a lot of time. And because of those partnerships, they're contractually obligated to still do business or give part of their business to these platforms, which will always keep the platforms in power. And then say, we need those platforms to be successful. Because right now, if you talk to a young guy, he say, I'll just go on YouTube. But when he goes on YouTube and he becomes successful in his eyes, And in his eyes, a few $1 million can change a poor boy's life. You know, so in his eyes, he thinks I'm a millionaire, and then the $1 billion corporations come in and say, let's partner, let's do a deal, because I can get you to the world, I can get you to radio, I can get you on television, I can get you all of the things that you couldn't get. And then they partner with these guys, and by partnering, they give up a lot of the power, or they give up 50% of the power. Yeah. And the power that they give up, they actually giving up the part that actually presents their art to the world, you know, and that's what we have to start understanding. When we start controlling the platform that presents our art to the consumer, then we are really in power.
In control, yeah.
Now, how do we change that ideology to get people to believe that we can have our own ownership? Where does that start, and how do you start that process?
Man, that's a long road, but it has to start somewhere. Everything has a beginning. You know, your Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated member. That means that you understand that there's a beginning, you know what I mean? And you understand about beginnings. You just have to start. But you have to start with like-minded people. You have to get those people to believe in you, and then get the people that believe in the people that believe in you. You got to get their people to believe in you, you know? So it's a chain reaction. And it's not going to happen overnight, because we're talking about hundreds of years of brainwashing and programming to make people think these ideologies. You know what I mean? Because we can talk to anybody right now. If I say we have Black billionaires in this country, we have millionaires, multiple millionaires, 100 millionaires. If we came together and said, we're not going to work, all the 9-to-5ers don't go to work tomorrow, but we got Kanye, Oprah, Robert from BET. We got all of the Black billionaires coming together, and they're going to put hundreds of $1 million into this fund to help all Black people in the country. Any Black person that's making 6 figures, their children go to a nice school, they have a nice home, a nice car, and doing well off, they're going to be hesitant. They're going to be like, man, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to lose my car. I'm not going to lose my child going to this great school. I'm not going to lose all my benefits of 6 figures plus a year. I'm not doing that. And until we have just, excuse my expression, but balls out, ass out, and being passionate and real unity, then there's never going to be a collaborative effort on that great scale and level that we really need to get out of this ditch that has been dug for 400, 500 years. You
Right.
know, like they did a number on the African American, the Black person in society. America's not even for us. And when we start to believe that and stop trying to be a part of their system and create our own systems, we will never get out. I'm not saying that we won't have some leverage. Some people won't make it to another level. Some people won't climb a little higher than they were. Yes, people do it every day. But when we're talking about African American Black culture being looked at as an equal, we're probably looking in the wrong place if we're looking in America, because America wasn't built like that. We were only here to help build it. It wasn't built for us.
And it's no surprise when you say that. It's no surprise that a culture we created would also be kind of, I would say there was definitely an attempt to corrupt it and commercialize it, you know. And everyone here, I think, is old enough to remember when it was just us listening to it, it was totally different, you know. Then when it kind of crossed over and other people started listening to it, I guess they wanted it to reflect their image of us, you know, more so than our image of us. So Dude is dead on with that. And I think, and that's a launching pad to the direction I want to go in next. A lot of times, and Jazz, we've had this discussion, when you love a culture, you love an art, you know, whatever it is, you're going to have a commercial peak, and then you might have dips and valleys. And so to the general public, when your quote unquote commercial peak may have come to an end, they think you're not doing anything.
Right.
So for both of you, I want to talk about both of you, what you've been doing now. For those who don't know, Jazz, you created the theme music for this podcast.
Fuck.
so, so why don't you talk about that album that you've done with Lord Triller? I mean, with Triller. I'm sorry, it's called Lord Triller.
Yeah, with True Triller.
True Triller. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Since this pandemic, has been going for a year now. For me, I have to do something with my time, and we had nothing but time during this pandemic. So, I would say to all the artists that were just sitting on their ass during this pandemic is kind of ludicrous to me, because like you go crazy, man. Just being an artist, entertainer, like you have to create. So I was just like I was doing my Friday night mix show that I do, and my man True Triller, I didn't even really know him personally, but he hit me up like, yo, I like that beat right there that you played, and I was like, oh, okay. So I sent him a track, actually the No Fear joint. That was the first joint that we did.
Okay.
And he knocked it out, sent it right back to me the next day, like with the vocals. I was like, wow, okay. So I sent him a couple more joints and he knocked them out. I'm like, man, we need to do an album. And he's like, man, I was thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we just started to collaborate and just knock the joints out, man. And, it came out crazy. The first video, It's So 50. Yeah, when he sent me that one back with Prince Ak and Flaqua on it, I was like, yo,
right.
This has to be, the first joint that we put out. So, he was just a good dude, man. His work ethic, he reminded me of Tupac, man. I always tell him, like, dude, he's always in the studio creating. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I just loved his style, man, and I loved how he put his rhymes together. I really can we curse on here or not?
Go ahead, I can edit it if I have to.
Okay, no, it's cool. I mean, I just like this flow, man, and we put it together and put it out. It's kind of crazy because of the pandemic, man. We can't do any shows. Right. We would be in Europe right now, as we speak. And just to go back to your question that you had about, the highs and lows of, your albums or whatever, man, I'll never forget in '99, we had this album called Resurrection. Actually, you was in one of the videos.
Yes.
To blow your mind.
Yeah.
So, after that album, I was still living in New Jersey. And, I was like, I'm kind of adventurous, spontaneous. I was like, man, I called a meeting and I told Doing Funk, I was like, yo, man, I'm about to move to Paris. They was like, what? Move to Paris? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm just, I'm going to go out there and see what I could, I'm trying to keep our name alive in Europe because they love us more and we get more respect out there than we do in the States.
Right.
Maybe not more respect, but they really like on another level in Europe, man. So I went out there and I started just building my relationships and, got hooked up with my man, Yannick at Live Nation. And I started, putting tours together and would bring Doing Funk out and we would just tour. Mm-hmm. Like we've been touring since '99, man. We go to Europe every year. Sometimes Africa. We was the first group to perform in Angola, Africa.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And that was in 2000. You know, man, like we've toured the world, and I give everything up for hip hop, man, because hip hop has introduced me to my wife. Mm-hmm. It has introduced me to, or let me see places that I can't even pronounce to this day.
Right.
It just like took me around the world, man, and I can't imagine me not even being in hip hop. Like where would I be? Like hip hop has like really totally changed my life, really. And I do not take anything for granted. Everything that happened to us as in the group happened for a reason. And, we just, you live and you learn and you keep it moving. So, there was highs and there was lows, but you have to just know how to combat those highs and lows, man, and keep it moving. And, do it all. His name speaks for itself. He always stays busy, even without the pandemic. He's into everything. And I think that's how I'm raising my kids, to just be into everything, at least give them the option so they can see what they like or not. It's better to have opportunities than not have them. So, that's how me and my wife are raising my kids, man. And, we just raising them up to be, courteous, respectful, hardworking, and, hopefully they are listening to us, what we telling them, and just trying to make their lives easier,
Now, before you mention your kids, I want to talk about your daughter's career. But before we talk about that, I want to give a shameless plug here. If you're like me, old school hip hop head, and you're like, where is that, that good hip hop that I used to listen to? The Lord Triller album is that. I'm not just saying that because you're a friend of mine or whatever. I always, tell you the truth. I listen to that. Just like House of the Lords, to me, was like one of y'all best albums.
You always said that.
I like House of the Lords, but unfortunately, like Dude mentioned, the powers that be, the distribution. Once certain people decide that, oh, your peak is done, you might not get the push that you got. And I thought House of the Lords was one of the best. So, but that Lord Triller, I still use the word album, whatever we call it now. That Lord Triller album is tight. Tell the people how they can get that.
Oh, you can go right on iTunes, Lord Triller, DJ Lord Jazz, or True Triller. Right on iTunes, Spotify. I mean, it's out everywhere. You can also get it on my Bandcamp. That's DJ Lord Jazz, Bandcamp. Are you familiar with Bandcamp?
I'm not, but why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so it's Bandcamp, BANDCAMP. You can find a lot of good music, man, and a lot of that's what I was gonna say earlier. They're promoting a lot of the trap style music, but there's a lot of great music that's out, man. And that's what I try to play on my show, to let these people know that it's more than just that, than what they playing on the radio. I play music that I like. I think if you 30 and 35 and up, you would appreciate it, because it's still, boom bap, a message. Some have a message, some don't have a message, but the beat is raw, so I still just try to be a DJ and promote this music that I think people need to hear, Now,
Jazz, I want to come back to you and talk about your daughter's career and what you're doing with her. But let me switch to Do. I know I was listening to what's the radio station on XM? It's LL Cool J radio now.
Rock the Bells.
Rock the Bells, right? Rock the Bells radio. And I'm riding in my car, and then I hear my man Do come on, doing an interview. And when I was at Akron, my OG, Dr. Holmes taught me about Amira Baraka, and so I'm listening to Do, and he's doing an interview, and he had done a record with Amira Baraka's son. And I know that had it wasn't just, I don't think y'all were just putting that out to put it out. I think there was a political plan with that. So Do, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
The song that you're talking about is from an album, probably one of my most personal albums ever. It's called Brenda's Son. Brenda's Son is a reflection about who I was then growing up as a young Black male to a single parent who was my mother, single woman, in cities that look, urban city like Newark, New Jersey, and cities that look like Newark, New Jersey. And I feel like with Lords of the Underground, I've always told the truth. Of course we exaggerate about certain things, but overall, I've basically told the truth, but I never was really personal. I always omitted the personal because, you know, growing up in our Black communities, they teach you don't let anybody know any personal things about you because they'll use it against you. You know, that's the way I came up. So for me, it was just like, you know, that song is not it's not a political song. It just happens to have an artist who was Amiri Baraka Senior's son, Raz J. Baraka, who just happens to be the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. So that's what it is. It's not a political record. It just happens to have our mayor on it. I'm the first probably MC ever to do a song with their mayor. You know, I'm the first artist ever I know in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm the first artist ever to do a song in a video in City Hall. You know, so I guess with all of those components, people would say that it's a political song, when really it's just a song saying whoever you are, stay strong, keep the faith, you know, keep grinding, keep doing the things that you need to do. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing the things that you need to do to become the best version of yourself. That's all it is, man. Keep the faith. Keep the faith in who you are. Keep the faith in what you believe in. Keep the faith that you believe that it can happen. And that's really all the song is about.
Now, although that song per se wasn't political, you're very involved in politics in the city of Newark, correct?
I mean, for the lack of better words, I would say yes, but I don't see myself as a politician. I'm a public servant. I'm a community servant. You know what I mean? I love my city, and I believe that when you love something, you can change things about it. You know what I mean? Or you can enhance things about it. Because love doesn't change things, but it enhances the things that are already in you, and you might not necessarily see them. So I just believe when you love your city, man, you can enhance those things that are there and people might not see. I just love my city, man. And for the lack of better words, I guess if we have to say politician or politics, then we'll say that. But you know, I'm what hip hop looks like growing up. I am what hip hop looks like, what Tupac talked about hip hop should become and get associated with politics. It gets confusing for people because no one has successfully done it yet. Don't get me wrong. You see Chuck D, you know, and he's screaming great things. You see Killer Mike doing great things and speaking from a place of understanding. You see T.I. getting involved, using his celebrity. And you see a couple of people using their celebrity, you know, to help Black Lives Matter and all of these type of things. But nobody has been directly involved, as what Tupac said, of becoming an elected official where they can effectively make legislation and foster legislation to be changed. But I will say this: what Big Mike and them, what Killer Mike and them did in Atlanta with the lady that got all of the votes, got everybody to come out and vote.
Her name is
tripping
at the moment.
But by them doing that also fosters change. That's uniting. So you don't have to be a political figure to foster change, but you do have to be a political figure to get bills passed, to get laws passed, and we deserve to be at that table as well, because you know it takes one, then if two can get in there, then three. It's not going to happen overnight, and then once we all get in there, then we can start making, bringing to the table the needs, the assessments, the wants of our culture. And when I say our culture, the people who live the hip hop culture, and for the last 25 years, arguably, you can even say 30, that hip hop has been the pop culture of the world. And when you're the pop culture of anything, it moves society forward. It drives society forward. And if we're able to drive society forward and move society forward, then why don't we have a seat at the table of making legislation and making those laws? Yes, we can disrupt it and make others make those decisions because they want their jobs, but we need to be talking directly to us. This goes back to the example of what Lord Jazz said. Yeah, we're owners. Yeah, we're owners now, Yeah, we are owners. We own our masters. Yeah, we can affect change in our community, but still, we're not the distribution companies. We're not the lawmakers. We're not the, you know what I mean? So that's the comparison I see. Yes, we have more than we did before, but we're still not them boys, as a Wiz Khalifa would say. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Hey, good point. Hey, Jazz.
Yeah.
And I know with the little bit of time we got left,
Yeah.
I want you to talk to us about what you're doing with your daughter's career. And then from both of you, I just want to, you know, give you both a chance to say something to people that like are from our generation that may be to a point where they're turning away from hip hop culture. We've kind of addressed it, but just one last statement. So why don't you, Jazz, why don't you talk about what you're doing with your daughter's career?
Okay. My daughter, her name is Gloria Colston, aka DJ Glow. That's GLO. She is hip hop. She was involved since early, man. 4 years old, she started DJing after just watching me do my radio show in Paris. And one day she just asked me, can she try it? And I was like, all right. She couldn't even reach the turntables, but I saw how she was, you know, controlling the mixer and putting her hands on the records. Like wow, she was really studying what I was doing. So, you know, she kind of impressed me when she did that. So after she practiced a little bit DJing, she started to really get good. And this was at 4, man. And by 7, you know, I asked her if she wanted to rap. And she was like, yeah, okay. And at this time, Doing Funk actually was out in Paris because we were doing another tour. And so her first song that she did, Do and Funky actually wrote it for her. It was the joint called I'm Shining. And you can check that out on YouTube, DJ Glow, I'm Shining. And it did pretty good out there in France. So we shot the video, did real well. And, you know, and after that, she just, you know, she got into break dancing, no graffiti, but just the break dancing and was in talent shows and things like that out in Paris. And, you know, like I said, she just grew up in it, man. She opened up for us at Élysée Montmartre in Paris when she was like 3. You know, she hyped the crowd up, and you know, she was just born into it, man. So long story short, now she's doing her second album. Her first album was called Since Day One when she was like 10 years old. You can check that out on iTunes. Do It All is featuring on one of the joints called 5 Elements, which is a banger. But she's working on her project now, but now she's doing it solo. I'm not helping her with anything. Were
you too controlling, Dad? And she had to Joe Jackson.
I wasn't a Joe Jackson type. I would give her a little tidbits like, you should do it this way. You know, I ain't gonna force you to do whatever comes out of your heart. But you know, but now she's at the point where, you know, she does everything by herself. She makes the beats. She plays the piano. She plays the bass. She does the guitar. Like, she does everything. Like I don't even do that. I'm still sampling and just playing the bass with the keyboards, you know. But you know, she has the whole package, man. And I really don't want her to get discouraged because of like how we talked about earlier. Like, they really promote and pushing all the violent and, you know, for me, not so good music.
Right.
And, you know, it seemed like the people with talent, they like, it's right. Talent, but how many views do you have on YouTube? You know, that's the era that we're in now.
Right.
So, you know, I just try to keep her.
But she's doing good on YouTube. I saw something like 365,000. I'm like, geez, she got more views than me.
I mean, yeah, it's doing cool, but it's like, you know, I just try to keep her motivated and positive and not thinking about that side of it. I'm like, just create your art and get it out there, and, you know, let us, you know, figure out what we're gonna do once it's done. So, you know, she's yeah, man, she's incredible, man. I can't wait for the world to hear her music.
No, she definitely is. He's not saying that just because Well, he is saying it because he's her dad, but she is though. I say it because I'm my uncle, but she actually is amazing, man. She has no choice, and the reason, what I mean by she has no choice is because Lord Jazz brought her into the studio in a stroller, man, when she was just a baby.
Yeah.
You know, so she grew up in the studio with Lords of the Underground. You know how some of the times when, you know, you see these hip hop artists, they leave their children with the mom, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. Right. But Lord Jazz had his daughter with him all the time, every time. And what I've learned about children is that they are receptors, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing that you give them the most, the information that you feed them the most is what they take in. And when they take it in, they start to learn how to apply it. And she has been that. She has been that receptor to hip hop, the culture of hip hop. That's why I mean she has no choice, because she's been around it. She's been around every component that brought her to the next part, you know. So when she's DJing, now she's mixing music, she's mixing sounds. She understands now what she gets into making beats. Then when you get into making beats, you started breaking down the part. Then you start finding the best part. And then when you find the best part, you get onto bass lines and harmonies and synthesizers. Now you want to create those sounds. So all of this stuff is what she did. You know, she just walked through it. I remember getting into hip hop, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, at about 8 years old. You know, so she got it before me. You see what I'm saying? Like, she got it at birth. So when you that is education, whether we look at it that way or not. So she has been a student of hip hop since her birth, like literally. So why wouldn't she have these talents that she has? We look at it because we compare it to her peers who didn't have that education, who didn't get that information. So we look at it like, oh, she's an anomaly. No, she's been educated longer. She's been around it more. And when you do that with any form of information, that person who is receiving the information more or longer will also be better than Peace Twin. Peace, family. Thank you, brother. All right, man. Have a great evening. All right. Take care, bro. Pardon me, guys.
No problem.
I'm still in my car. But you know, when you give information to somebody for a longer period of time and they are interested in it, they're gonna do wonders with it. And that's just glow. What is she, 15 now, Dad? 16 now?
She's 16 now. Yeah.
So she's 16. So three more years, she will be the age that I got into Lords of the Underground. And I look at that as my time of becoming a pro, of going into the league. So to me, I feel like we have a high school student who's balling on the court, who actually can go pro right now, but we're waiting it out. She's gonna let her run these college years down and put her right into the league. Because one thing I can say about Jazz and his wife is that they don't force her to do anything. Right. They allow her to be who she is. And it just so happens to be that she is hip hop. She's art. She's all of that. And I believe that when she is ready, when she fully understands who she is in that realm, she is going to be amazing and is going to leave a legacy beyond Lords of the Underground. And I told Lord Jazz when she was a baby, when I held her, I said, man, this is something special, man. She is something special. All she has to do right now is understand who she is, believe it, and she will become something that the world will talk about for ages.
And you make a good point. Well, you made several good points. But one thing I'm looking at is that you talk about how she's been immersed in the culture. So I think that's a good place for us to segue for you to make a final statement to the audience. What would you say to the people listening, like we mentioned earlier, our age, or as Jazz said, 30, 35 and up, who are turning away from hip hop culture? What would you say to those people?
I would say to them, if we don't want to lose the culture, don't turn away from it. If you do not want to give the culture away, don't turn away from it. You know, that's a mentor's problem I learned from just being in the community, right? I associate the two. When you turn away from a person who seems to have problems and do bad, they become worse. You know what I mean? So if you give them help, I'm not saying that it won't be hard, because you have to dumb it down. You have to come down to a level. You have to meet that person where they are. And a lot of times when you meet that person where they are, it's like you've been dropped. You got to reach your hand down. You done came down a level. Well, that's the only way that they're going to get the understanding and the information to become better. So I say, find a way to fill that gap. Find a way to bridge that gap. Don't say that's trash. You can go on Google of how to say words in a paragraph better to stretch your paper out or to lessen it. The words, because. Don't say because. You can say if this was this, and you know what I mean? Find a better way to communicate and comprehend what these artists are saying, because they got it from somewhere. Right. They're perceiving it from somewhere. Their perception is that of something that has been taken in by their mindset. So one thing that I've learned from some of my mentors is just because you have power or just because you know better, you don't always have to voice your opinion right away. You don't always have to say, no, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Listen to the person, because maybe it takes them longer to express how they feel, and in their expression, they will tell you that it was wrong. But if you stop them right there, then they no longer want to proceed. You know what I mean? So listen to the artist. Just because you know more, listen to them. And a lot of times, as we get older, we lose touch from the things we used to be connected to. So they might be doing the new thing or giving you the new thing, and you're going off the old way. So just listen to them. And don't just react, but respond to them. So now, because we're so used to doing this as adults, pointing the finger and as elders, but that's not our job as I'm getting older. That's not our job to point the fingers or tell people what to do. I'm learning, especially from dealing with the people in the community, that our job is to listen and direct. That's it. Because who am I to tell Glow how to do some music? Now, some people say, well, you sold platinum records. That's how you can tell her. You have experiences. That's how you can tell her. True to some extent. But how do I know if I tell her my way or our way as Lords of the Underground that she will only sell 4 million something records worldwide? Because I'm telling her my blueprint, and that's what we did about. You know what I mean? So if I allow her to be who she is and listen, and then just direct, will say, Glow, I know when we went that way, there was a pothole over there. And then she might say to me, oh, what I know, dude, but they fixed that now. Or we jumped that now because we got these new shoes from this technology thing that bounces over that I didn't know. You know what I mean? So we have to start directing and stop telling them what to do and listening. So we can't push if you don't like mumble rap, you better listen hard. And ask questions. Why did you say this? Why do you say that? Don't just say, I don't like it, or that's trash, or that beat is whack, because now you just block all the future conversations with them. Now I ain't listening to old head. Get this dumb out of here. I ain't, man. Yeah. Old head corny. Now you just instead of making an ally, you can turn them into an adversary. You know, and this is just what I've learned. So I listen to everybody. And I just give direction now. I don't tell them what to do because I don't know what the new thing is. They might be creating that next new thing. I'll give you an example. Back in the day when 50 Cent was down with Jam Master Jay, I saw him somewhere and he said, yo, kind of said sort of what Tupac said to us at one time. Show me how to get some of this Chief Rocker money that your Chief Rocker was everywhere. He was like, yo, put me on. And I said, Fifth, if I tell you how to do it, you might only sell 1 million records. And look what he came out of did. He blew us out the water. Right. But what if I would have told him my blueprint and he followed it? Yeah, he would have sold 1 million records, but he wouldn't have sold 20 million records.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not our job to tell them what to do as elders. It's not our job to point the finger. It's our job to protect, direct, and just make sure that they're safe while they're doing and discovering what they're discovering. And we might learn something.
And, you know, as a school counselor, we are right there, brother. I'm with you, definitely with you on that. You're speaking my language. Jazz, wow. Same question, and we'll make this the last piece.
Well, I would say a great rapper once said, dreams don't have an expiration date. And I think for people who are trying to get into this business, who do not want to follow the same trend that, you know, everybody's doing just to get some paper or to get played on the radio, but are just doing it from their heart, I just say, believe in yourself, keep dreaming. Like, you can do it. Like there's millions of DJs out there that still play good music, and I'm one of them. I'm still a fan of music, not even hip hop. I mean, I'm a fan of music, all music. And so for the people who want to get into this industry or want to become rappers, do it. If that's your passion, if that's your dream, do it. If you can talk, if you can write, read, and still walk, and still have your brain, like, do it. Like, what's stopping you? Nothing's stopping you. Keep that dream alive, man. Like, you can do it. There's people out there that still love this music. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I know everybody said this is a young man's game now, but hey, man, it's 40s and 50s and 60s and probably some 70-year-olds that listens to hip hop music. So don't be afraid, man. Shoot for the stars. That's what we did. That's what we did.
Y'all got there. And, you know, on that note, I just want to say, you know, after, you know, over 25 years of knowing both of you brothers, I haven't had a bad time with you yet. And I didn't have a bad time today at all. So,
never. Hey, we appreciate you, man. We love the podcast. And also, you can check me out on the website. It's djlordjazz.com. Also, if you want to check my daughter out, it's gloriacolston.com. Check her out, see what she's doing. And please check her show out that she does on Saturdays, man, where she makes a beat and just does it right in front of everybody. And she's super dope. That's on her Instagram. It's Gloria Colston. No. It's Miss DJ Glow, I think, her Instagram. All right,
I'll post all that in the comments of the video. So again, thanks.
Don't forget too, man. Like, don't forget, man. Hit me up. Follow us Lords of the Underground on Instagram at LOTUG and the number 1, Lotug1. And follow myself as well on Instagram at DoitAll, just like it sounds, DOITALL and DU at the end. So do it all, do. And stay in tune with us, man. For real.
Definitely will, brothers. I'll post all that information in the comments.
One more thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jazz. No problem.
My IG is at Lord Jazz, LOTUG. Also, shout out to Mr. Funky.
Shout out to Funk.
We love you, bruh. And what's Funk's IG? The real Mr. Funky.
The real Mr. Funky with an E.
Yeah. With an E at the end. Yeah.
And I'll make sure all that's posted, brothers.
Yeah.
So people have an opportunity to check you out. Once again, man, thank you both for coming on.
No problem.
Man, it was a great conversation. I usually end after about 45 minutes, but I couldn't find a good ending point with this one, man. we might have gone on for about an hour and 20 minutes, but
all good.
That's all right. So thanks again. And for everybody watching and listening, thank you for your continued support. We'll see
man.
You next time.
Shout out to my father, brother. 19.
Also, damn sorry.
No problem.
Friday show that I do on Fridays from 6 to 7 is on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/DJ Lord Jazz. So tune in, subscribe, follow me on there, check out the show.
We will be watching, brother.
All right.
No doubt, bro.
All right.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Appreciate
it. Peace.
Lord Jazz, papi, hit me one time and make it funky.
I was brought up and told to have